Good evening and welcome to ESP TV. My name is Karen Bryson. And for our listening audience that I have not seen personally or even talked to, the month is not over yet, so I want to wish you a very happy, a prosperous, and auspicious new year. Welcome. And thank you for joining us this evening. As you may recall or may not, last May we had the privilege of having Jessica Thomas on our show. She is the wife of Christian Thomas. Christian Thomas wrote the book, A Theft of Innocence. Can anybody hear me? Mr. Undesirable. It was specifically about his life, and it is intense reading. If anyone has not received this book or gotten it yet, you need to go to whatever Jessica is going to tell us shortly where to find this book so that you can really get an in-depth feeling of what it was like to be Christian back in his day and his growing up. It's intense reading, and you'll love it. I couldn't put it down. Specifically, Christian would like rehabilitation for adverse youth in the younger age group. He wants to work out resources for inmates when they are released by finding housing for them, programs and classes to assist them to assimilation back into society where that's not prevalent and helpful to them. He wants to help find a network of people to be accessible in the case of released persons and depressed persons that need medical attention that really aren't getting the help that they desire or need, assistance with job applications, and enrolling into school. Some of the things that we take for granted, but someone that has been in the system and in prison from an early age, say from the youth centers through the adult incarceration period, haven't been given the same privileges and entitlements and respect even after they've served their time. I personally feel that if you've served your time and you are now out, then you should be afforded some respect and the abilities to earn a decent living and housing, medical care, and whatever else is necessary for you. And those are some of the things that Christian is trying to assimilate back into the system that's not readily available. So please help me welcome Jessica Thomas. How are you, Jessica?
We're good. Thank you very, very much for asking. Speaking on what you're talking on, that is the Open Arms Project, and he's still actively working on that. He has a group of folks in there that he works with. They collaborate together. They're trying to come up with an app, and the proper resources to put into place once it all comes together. So that is also something he's still actively working on.
That is awesome. How much more time does he have?
Till May of 2024, so less than 3 years.
Okay, that's positive, and hopefully maybe he might even be able to get out earlier. We can keep our fingers
We'll
crossed,
see.
can't we?
Yeah.
You have such an interesting life yourself concerning what you've been through with Christian. When you first met him, was he forthcoming with you about his past and things that brought him to this station in life where he eventually ended up being back in the system in jail?
Little by little, but yes, since day one. Since day one, he's let little pieces out, until it got to a point where he just started letting it all out. And it was very difficult to digest, and he wasn't in contact with his parents, his mother, his father, anything. He had left the home. So when we finally did make that contact with them, and then his mom relayed the same stories, it was kind of horrific to know that those things actually took place. Like, he wasn't kidding.
Well, from my reading of the book, it didn't sound to me like his parents on any level other than his father doing some of the horrible things with him were really a part of his life, because he was more in the system and trying to just stay alive from a young child on.
Right. And then a lot of those were dealt with, between the mother and the father, trying to pull him back and forth. What he has described was, back then, dark skin was not the fad, light skins were, so he was always thrown to the
Right.
side. Teachers always had to pick him up and wash his clothes because his mother just didn't. She was doing other things and didn't care enough too. Um, he did mention, but he didn't know if that was going to come, but he doesn't know for sure, but he kind of imagines he might have been a product of rape, and maybe that's why his mother had such disregard for him. But we're not sure, and who are we to really go into all of that? It's not my place, and it's only his and hers if they ever want to go there. It's tough. It's
Absolutely.
really tough.
What really tugged at my heart in A Theft of Innocence was when his family moved and just left him behind. That was kind of hard to. You you go through so many emotions, or at least I did reading the book. You really want to pull for him, and then he's so forthcoming in the nightlife that he was in with trafficking children and drugs and so many other things. I mean, it's a life that's so far removed from us that we see in movies that we don't really know someone in real life, many of us, that can say, oh my God, really? And you lived through that?
And then be
Doesn't
like the
that scare
biggest
you?
teddy bear ever. I mean, really, like that's it. Like, he's the biggest teddy bear ever. And yes, I know that there's a very ugly side in there, and we constantly battle still with the mental illness of things, and the past that we've both went through. They creep up, but oh my God, like it's something else. It's something else. He's got something there. He didn't go through his life to just be this horrible person, to be trying so hard to do
Right.
great things and make such great accomplishments if he was such a horrible person. I don't believe that God would allow that.
Absolutely.
I do believe
I
we all have
agree.
choice. We all have choice, and at the end
Yeah.
of the road, he'll have to make a decision just like you and I, everybody else will, to make the right or wrong decisions. But I really have confidence in him doing the right thing, whether we stay as a unit or not. Like, I see him going places, and he needs to find what he's going to do. He's got several things he's working on. Several. I mean, several.
Okay, considering the life that he led, um, between the women, the drugs, the everything from the underside belly of life society, that people with their noses in the air that think it can't happen to them, um, none of that scared you when you began your relationship with him?
It still scares me to this day because it's capable in all of us, and whatever he does, he's great at. Great. So if he goes that route again, it's going to be great, but not a great. It'll be bad. So he has to stay on the
Right.
right. So yes, it is very difficult. At times, you just don't know. But again, you believe in one God, and you follow what he wants. And as long as you, as a person, myself as a person, we follow, then we have our own destiny with God. If he falls in line with it,
Right.
great. you know and
Absolutely, yes.
I'm sure he's on his way. Like, he's got so many plans, things going. He's got money saved up in there. He's doing things. He's got people. He's got his EIN numbers coming up, the business being trademarked. I'm getting vector files of all his trademark stuff for the clothing line coming up, and that's going to be coming.
Well, tell us about the clothing line. Can you give us any hints on what's going on with that?
So it is called Pluviosity, is the
I'm sorry,
line, and
repeat
it's
that.
by Pluviosity. Let me see
Okay.
here. Pluviosity, and it's Pluviosity. And this is kind of just
Oh, I
one of
like
the
that.
trademark there. And of course, there's different designs to that we're going and playing with and trademarked, and we're getting ready to put them on different items as well to start out, and then go from there. This
Okay.
is Pluviosity in the back.
So you started with headwear. Will that go as far as t-shirts, sweatshirts, and pants and things like that
Oh,
as well?
all of that. I mean, he's thinking on a whole nother level. And then he has a whole nother high end type of clothing for women. He's very, very fashionable. So he comes up with some very, very neat ideas.
That is awesome. You must be an extraordinary woman because considering some of the things, not some of the things, but all of the things in life that occurred that can really have an effect on a person's psyche and still carry over into everything else he does, he must really trust you, and you have that ability and spirit within you to find that calm and, like you said, that teddy bear in him that other people may not have seen. How do you feel about that?
Right. I feel good because I'm the one, but at the same time, like that can come touch and go because I'm an emotional creature myself, being a woman, you know. So when he
Mm-hmm.
comes at me with things, I have no other ability but to respond sometimes. It just takes me a little bit more self control, I think, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to hear him out and then hear where it's really coming from and hopefully know from there.
So, help me understand, does he basically use you as a sounding board and a shoulder to sort of purge everything that was going on in his life? Or did he purge everything when he wrote this?
It really started coming out when he wrote the first book, which was Pleasurable Pain. And that was the poem depictions of where it started, of him coming out of lifestyles he lived, and
Okay.
very grotesque, you know, very deep, very explicit, very explicit. That's when it really started to pour out of him. And then, you know, the Theft of Innocence, you know, this book, I always type it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I always get to experience it my own way,
So you
hearing it
cry
this way
too
as
as well
well.
while you're doing this.
Yeah. And I have to stop. I have to stop. I have to stop. And sometimes I put it down and I'm like, I just can't do this. Like, what is going on? But I know what we're trying to come up with. I know the kind of woman that I am. And I know that God wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
put a monster by me,
Right.
if that makes any sense. Like, he's not a
No, it
monster.
does.
People, yeah, you know, otherwise, you know, I'm down to hell too, but I don't, I mean, I hope not, but I believe that I believe in him. I believe in him, and
Okay.
he's not going to be very close to us. I don't know how it's going to be when the kids come, when he comes with the kids. There's a lot of dynamics. You know, he's been gone, would have been gone for almost 8 years, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
Society's a lot different. You know, economies, inflation right now, the things that they don't know about. They might want to stay in there for a little while longer, you know, but it is what it is. It's
Does he
hard
stay
too.
in? Yeah, it
Go ahead.
is. I can imagine that, especially with you visiting when you can. Do you take the children to visit him as well?
No, no. That's a
So
kind
he
of
has no
complex
relationship with
situation in
them?
itself. Very little.
Mm.
Very little. I mean, when he calls, when he gets the video calls, none of them really like to be on camera, and I respect them because he's just like that, you
Okay.
know? So I don't make them get on camera with him, but they do get on. It's a very small relationship, yes.
You're right, then that will be difficult once he is released and assimilated back into your life. They don't know him the way you do, so it's going to be very tenacious trying to build a relationship and a trust there.
Especially with teenage children by that time, you know?
Yeah. You said that there are other books in the works. Tell me. Come on, spill the tea.
So that's going to be first tier, TIER, so like, you know, as in a tier,
Okay.
and then Tears
Right.
of Deception. And they're actually fiction. You know, they're actually fiction novels, very romantic, very hot and sexy type of
Whoa.
literature. Yeah, something different other than what he's poured out. Like he's poured out his hurt and stuff, and hopefully it stays there. And now he's flourishing into more of his artistic side and get to go further with that. So yeah, I mean, it's about a guy, two brothers that really don't know each other, and they're in different countries. They end up being in love with the same woman, and a lot of things happen.
Oh, I like that. It sounds intriguing already.
Yeah, yeah. He hasn't sent that one to
So,
me
Kat,
yet, so I don't have it. But
okay. Well, he definitely has a lot of time to write while where he is. So he has an extraordinary vocabulary. Um, Most people that aren't familiar or didn't really pay attention in English class, they're going to really have to go to their dictionaries to understand a lot of what he's saying. And it makes sense considering he had to be introverted during all that time when he was growing up and ingest a lot to himself and keep himself shielded from everything else. I'm surprised that he is as giving and as open as he is now. Do they have respect for him now in the system?
he struggles. He struggles with, of course, the officers. He likes to stay to himself, and because he's larger, I have actually heard from the inside, from the outside here, somebody who knows, and they're like, "Oh, he's this, he's that. We can take care of him." So it's hard to hear that there's some bad people out there still when he's just trying to go about his
Always.
time. He doesn't want to get involved in everything else that's around him. He's trying his hardest to stay in his little box, which he's pretty good at. Like my kids are the same way. They're homebodies. Like I don't worry about them running around, or they just stay home. But yeah, I mean, it's
Absolutely.
it's it's hard. Like I don't think anybody. I think no matter what he ends up doing in his life, how great he becomes, how successful he becomes, he's still going to have people looking at him a certain way his whole life. Even up to a very old man, they're going to accuse him of certain things, and they just misunderstand him.
I agree. And with all the positive things that you've suggested that he's trying to be a part of, like the rehabilitation, um, helping the system to become different and more admirable, especially where the children are concerned, because it's a hard life in there. It's a dog eat dog world, just like in the men's adult system, where everybody wants you to be in a certain clique or a certain group, in order to do things when everyone is not built that way. And definitely, he's of a high echelon, a different mold, and I am so appreciative and excited about the positive things and steps that he's taking.
Yeah, and I
What's
mean,
the name of the organization you said that he was instrumental in doing now?
where he's still in the process of making it. It's going to be called the Open Arms Project. Whether it's
Open Arms.
LLC with
Okay.
somebody else already, I don't believe, but that's what he's going to be calling it. And he's got several people on board all over the United States, really, because they do kind of like we're a military town, so a lot of the base people come to Yuma from all over the United States. He's the same,
Okay.
the same battle. The inmates come from all over.
That's awesome. So, does he specifically want to deal with the younger generation first, or is he just going to blanket across everybody that's in the system?
I think it's going to be focused more, of course, for men, women, and children coming out of the penal system. I really do. It'll flourish into something to the children later. He has to get a grasp of himself as a person first before he can educate or help any minor individuals, in any way.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting because, as far as from a woman's standpoint, what specifically would he be doing instrumental to help them in the system? Because women get raped in the system and they're beat up and tortured and everything else as well, and it's not discussed as much as with men.
I know, and it's bad. It's really bad. I know it's going to be focused for sure first on men, but of course to women, he would have to get a little bit of insider as well. He'd have to dig a
Right.
little bit further to know, because he knows what the men's prison's like. You hear about what a woman's
Yes.
prison's like. So there would have to be just, it's going to have to be in stages. He's going to have to go step one, step two, and step three. And then when he goes, you want to put all the family together so that there's a way for them to unify safely and
Right.
and cautiously, for the children's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end,
Absolutely. I agree with
we
that.
as adults have made our choices, and the kids are the ones who need the most guidance from that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Have your children had to have maybe counseling or anything considering um, the different stages of your relationship with Christian, or are they not privy to a lot of the things that occurred with him so that you've kept that shielded and separate from them?
Not so, like, they have an idea, but as they get old enough, that's when I explain them a little bit more. But no, I've never really held on to anything from them. I think they need to know, because pieces of him are a piece of them, and they need to know when they're approached with certain ways that they are, how to respond correctly. And
Okay.
I have to explain how things are for them, for him to them.
Absolutely, yes, I agree with that. Have they read any of his books, the two books that he has out already?
My oldest daughter has read a little bit. She actually gave it to one of her English teachers. He was interested last year.
Oh,
And then my oldest son, of course, bought them when they came out
okay.
as support for him. But
As
they're
support,
like,
but
oh
did
my
he read
God.
them?
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah,
it,
yeah. So they
okay.
have an idea. They really haven't asked questions. Alasia, which is his firstborn daughter, she has opinions. You know, she has opinions, and she's entitled to
Right,
them.
right.
Um,
Absolutely. But
yeah,
those were some of the choices that he made in order to stay alive, and not something he always wanted to do, with trust issues,
right.
love issues, affection, trying to fit in. He had so many things going
Abandonment.
against him. Yes. So that has to still weigh on a person's psyche. With the positive things he's doing now, has he ever intimated to you that maybe some of these things are still bothering him and plaguing him even at night when he sleeps?
Oh yeah, yes. I mean, we've been in a pretty constant communication for the last couple of months, almost on a daily thing. But in between those emails, it's mostly email correspondence. He'll throw in something where I know that he's being plagued by something, and that's where I said I have to
Right.
step back, and stop, and before my emotions come out, and be like, wait a minute, this is totally off kilter of what we've been talking about. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then, sure enough, like little things, the last couple of days, of course, leading up to the interview, because his family actually resides in Virginia. You know, his brother was actually on your show. That's how we found out about it. And um, according to
Who's his
family,
brother?
that his brother is Gregory Key, who wrote A Pair of
Oh
Queens.
my. Yes. Oh my goodness. What a small world.
Yeah, so and then I just sent the books off to places. I still do that in between now as well, but there's dynamics with the family. Eventually my kids are going to want to see their family. So I don't know if it's a great thing or a bad thing that he puts me out here, especially for their entertainment if they're watching. But in a sense, it is an only way for them to actually know about him, because he really wants no
Mm-hmm.
part right now.
Yeah, and it is his truth, and he's allowed to have his truth from his perspective because it occurred in his life and happened to him.
Right.
Yeah, you really are a strong woman, and I applaud you for that
Whew.
because you have stuck by him and stayed with the struggle the whole time. And that's what a wife is. What are those?
The good and the bad, for better,
What
for
is those
worse.
commitments say? Yeah, that all that. gosh.
I just do my best to be by his side, honestly. And he really does have something going. I put in my time when I can. And of course loses patience a little bit, but I'm like, dude, like, come on, I see what he's doing. I see it possible. I see him blowing up, especially, with the streaming things. He can get on one good thing and he's going to be good. He's going to be good with whatever ends up doing. But it's good that he does trust me enough to actually help along. And that's not easy either.
Yes. I understand, yes. Not that I've been in that position, but I do understand from your viewpoint. It's one thing to assist in the struggle with getting things corrected within inmates when they come out, to get them back into an acceptable society lifestyle with family and friends and job and everything else. But is there anything he can do as far as the system itself, within the court system, within with attorneys or legislation or anything else?
If he can get that far, if and when he can get that far, yes. We've faced a few things already legally in his life. He had a severed Achilles tendon, and they gave him experimental drugs and antibiotics and things like that. So we've had cases on things that they've done to him, but there's always a way that gets interfered. Something gets interfered with his stuff always. Even when it comes to emails sometimes. Sometimes they'll give him... And I don't know why. In whichever way, and he tries so many different ways. Yeah, but
they know that he's got a light around him, that he has bigger things ahead of him, and they just want to keep him pigeonholed into what he was, as opposed to seeing who he has become and what he can achieve. But you keep sticking by him and pushing him, because it seems like you are the light at the end of the tunnel, that he sees that, hey, this is what I'm going towards, because together we can make this work. My goodness.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your life too a little, since we've talked about Christian, because there were some things you were involved in as well that probably drew you all together like a moth to a flame, that we can discuss as well. Is that all right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. What can you tell us about, well, because I know, but the listening audience doesn't know, what were some of the things that you've had to grow past and get beyond in order to become who you are now?
Really, to get out of my own way. The only way that he puts it is that when I go, you can go right or you can go left, right or wrong. And if it was something I didn't like, I'm going to go all the way to the left, all the way. There's no, I'm just going to go there first, and that's it. Whatever happens. So I've had to get past that. I've had to get past actually losing everything, my rights to my children. Okay. And actually having nothing out of a hospital gown, and my mom putting me in Yuma County for asking her for a sandwich. Luckily, I didn't get in trouble for anything else, but she saved my life with that. So I had to get to absolutely nothing to know there's no place else to go but up and out. And of course, take yourself away from people, places, and things. And you do that, and they actually seem to stay away. And most people don't even recognize me anymore. And if they do, they're just floored. Because they can't believe it, And I am somebody in the city who's prominently known because my grandparents were very involved in the city. Hired contractors. We're a very small town. So I've been looked at. I've been looked at, and a lot of people know, and so they've seen where I've come from. But now I have my babies with me. Even though I only have guardianship of one, my oldest is already older and married, and then my two babies, they're here. My mom has custody still, but they live with me, and I'm okay with that.
Right. That's awesome. You said you had to hit all the way rock bottom to realize that your life needed to change. Had you met Christian by then, or were you still fighting your own demons before you met him?
Oh no, I was already fighting my own demons before I met him. And yes, it was something like that. Somebody brought him over to my house,
Okay.
and there was actually discussion about a picture that I had of Jesus on the wall. And then from there, he explained how he was going to be my husband. We were going to go through this whole scenario,
Hmm.
which has gone on, which has everything has happened. Um,
Okay.
and I was like, this guy's crazy. And then a year later, he came back, and then we actually got sober together for 3 years first, and then 5 years next. And then at the very end, I'm the one that went off the handle. I went all the way that way, and I say it took me rock bottom because if I ever go back, I'm there's
Mm-hmm.
there's no way. My kids are old enough now where they all have different personalities. They cry for my time. I wouldn't be able to.
Right. That is awesome. So none of the old things that used to tug you to the left as opposed to keeping you on the straight and narrow even interest you anymore.
No, I actually work for an assisted living community now. I'm in the highest position that I can
Nice.
be in.
Okay.
I do admissions and human resources, and I'm great at it. I love it. I'm a people person, so I'm dealing with the elderly, and giving them a nice place to live.
Yes. That is awesome. When think of assisted living facilities or group homes or even nursing homes, you hear so many horror stories where relatives just drop their person off and you never see them, they don't call, they don't visit, and the person just vegetates and becomes invisible where they are. What do you do to help them feel that they're still alive and part of whatever's going on at the assisted living home?
Well, we give them activities to do throughout the day. We do have some that do shut themselves in their apartments, but our activities director will go and spend one-on-one time with them. They also dine in a dining room for social time, and I believe you me, that it happens more in nursing homes and assisted livings. But in assisted livings, it's just like the hot spot to go before you end up in some
Ah,
place you don't want to be. You
mm,
know, it really is. It's a nice place to be. You have your own space. You can call for help if you need it. And I get to touch every family's life. Like that I come in contact with.
yeah. You just have that aura about you and the personality that I'm sure whatever you choose to do in life, you're going to be exceedingly great at as well. We've been talking about Christian, but it takes both of you. And obviously, you're the yin to his yang. Can you tell our listening audience where they can actually get this book and his first book? What was the name of the first book again?
The the first book is Pleasurable Pain, and they can get that off of Author House, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, of course, and this book, Theft of Innocence, they can get on Amazon as well.
Nice. Did he give you an anticipated or expected date when the at least one of the other two books will be coming out?
Well, I'm trying to squeeze the written part out of him because I can put that on my plate a little bit, to start this year. So
Uh-huh.
my goal is to have it ready to go by at least October, between October December. I would like to have it ready to go.
Nice. So, a holiday book signing and opening. Okay.
Maybe.
That is awesome. Is there anything you'd like to tell us that he wants our listening audience to know?
Just that he's got all these things going on. He's got a lot more to him than meets the eye. You know, what people's opinions are. He really does have a lot going on. He's got the clothing, the Open Arms Project. He's got people working all over the place for, designs.
Right.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me a second.
Well, we just have to give her a moment because she is at home with her family.
I I
And we have to be
apologize. I
respectful of
apologize.
that. That's all right.
Let's go, Asia. I apologize. I know you guys are live TV.
That's all right. So you were saying you want people to know, or he wants people to know that he has a lot more going on in his life um, than
he
just
may he
the
may come
shooting.
out. Right. He may come out with some things like he talked about today. He's going to do a little music video. You know, for me, he's personally too old to be doing that. But for him, it's just a little something he already has planned to do so he can have it on his list of things he's done, you know. But other than that, he's gearing up to be only wearing suits, you know, to dress the part,
Oh
to
my,
make sure he
yes.
gets to that part from day one. He doesn't want to come out to having that. He has been saving money up so he can do things. I don't always get involved in how he does what he does at all. I don't think he's doing anything illegitimate because he has CO3s working on it, unless they're all in on it, you know. But I really don't. He's really a square bear. He's really a square bear. He stays within his realm if he's
Um,
allowed to.
from when you first met him to now, the growth, the longevity that he's gotten to, what is the most important thing that you've seen change within his life from when you first met him?
Just being able to trust someone so long in itself. That in itself. Because he'll still say he won't trust me. You know, he'll still say that. But after, we're going towards 15, 16 years, you know, more than that, 17, 18, not 18 years, closer to 19 now, you know, that
Wow.
it's the trust because he doesn't trust anybody in his life. So it's worth something.
You said that his anticipated release date is in 2024. That's
Hmm.
in 2 more years. Has he intimated to you where he expects to be within the next 5 years? How much further along he needs to be in life?
So he's got a 3-year plan, which we're trying to start implementing that now, you know, with the clothing line, trying to see if we can get some growth coming in there. And then he does have a 5-year plan. Right when he comes out, he's more than likely going to have to go to the state capitol in Phoenix to serve his parole time, which I think is like a year and a half, which is, I think, a good amount of time to get him back on his feet. And
Right.
hopefully the other things are already just flowing. If they're not, he has to be okay with that.
Yeah, because life will have you journey one way when you think you need to go somewhere else, but you have to be flexible. What are your plans? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I actually don't know because I love where I'm at right now. Not necessarily. I don't necessarily want to stay in Yuma, but I love what I do and the team that I work with. So to leave them
Okay.
is like leaving family for me. So that's going to be my hardship. But definitely maybe Colorado, maybe Pennsylvania, something like that, where we're kind of thinking eventually.
You know, that's drastic because you're somewhere warm now and it's snowing here in Virginia. So you want to go to Colorado where it's definitely cold in the winter,
Well, it's
or
definitely
where
wet.
or Pennsylvania's cold too.
Well, I don't know anything about all that, but my sister is in Pennsylvania. She moved there
Okay.
going on 5 years ago now. And then in Colorado, it's just someplace that looks really beautiful, really
It
green. I
really
know
is.
it's real wet.
I have relatives in Aurora and you can see the mountains and the snow peaks and everything even in the summertime. It's just beautiful. I like Denver. And Pennsylvania, I've always loved Philly because of the architecture there. I like interesting looking buildings and everything. It has its share of night things that people may not want to be involved in that will get you in trouble and murders and things, but as a whole, Philly's a really interesting place to be. Yeah, so wherever you all decide, whatever as a nucleus you come together and do, I know it's going to be fabulous. Jessica, I really want to thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed talking to you, getting to re-know you and Christian through things that he's doing and the positive steps he's made since, I think the last time we talked to you was like last May, I believe. So it's been a while, and all this has happened since then.
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we sign off this evening?
No, just thank you for having me again. Thank you for letting us share our story, and appreciate your time. And I'm glad to see you.
Absolutely. I feel the same way about you. Tell our listening audience one more time where they can go to get pleasurable pain and the theft of innocence.
They can get them both off of Amazon.com, and they can also get Pleasurable Pain off of Author House or Barnes and Noble.
Great. Jessica, again, thank you. Listening audience, we appreciate you. And as always, this is ESP TV. My name is Karen Bryson, and be a blessing to at least one other person each day. Good night.